He's been at Scripps since 1988 as the Director of Interventional Cardiology, and has also been the Director of Interventional Cardiology Fellowship Program at Scripps. So I'd like to welcome Paul up to give his presentation. Let me see if I can get that up. Should be here.
Thank you. Sorry to take this extra time here. I just like to record what I do. Thanks for the invitation. It's really an honor to be here. It's an important topic for me. It's something I've been working on for the last 5 years. And let me just take you through what I think has happened, and where I think things have improved, and where I think maybe they can be further improved. These are my disclosures. I actually the president of the national board, but I don't get paid to do that. It's been sort of a passion of mine for the past 5 years. Let me start with this. I get about 300, 400 emails like all of us do a day. And this caught my eye the other day. Mastering the art of prior authorization to improve patient access to PCSK9 inhibitors. I'm supposed to go and spend 2 hours listening to a webinar, not on how to help my patient's cholesterol go down, but how to negotiate with the insurance companies. I mean, I just couldn't believe this. This is now what we're supposed to spend time learning. Physicians like work, but we want to do meaningful work. So here's some things that frustrate me pretty much every day. I click and click, mindlessly clicking, punctuated by occasional moments of terror when I click on the wrong thing, then I have to call the help desk. 15 minutes gone. How could that not result in burnout? Peer-to-peer pre-authorization, I don't know how much of that goes on in radiology, but I'm sure it does to a certain extent. It's a 15-minute ordeal that helps nobody. And as a nurse or retired MD really my peer? Administrators like to solve every problem in the hospital by another endless form we have to do. And the emphasis on quality improvement sounds great in practice, but results in more forms, inaccurate data entry, upcoding risk to look better on the dashboard, a lot of boring meetings to attend, one-time saver, risk avoidance, which actually has been proven to kill patients. And most quality initiatives do result in better data entry, but really have never been shown, and never been proven to help patients. Here goes another 15 minutes of my life I will never get back. The quality of our new advanced technology is terrible, and now we are dependent on it. Imagine if my cardiac procedures were done with the quality of Siri, launched in 2011, Siri is still every day. My new iPhone 11, which keeps calling my mother while I'm talking to a patient. It's been 10 years in between drop calls, poor contact searches, freezing screens. I have to reboot my iPhone every day. Epic, I'm sure you all know about the glitches that you experience with Epic. I am dependent on today's advanced technology to do my job, but I estimate 30 minutes a day is spent troubleshooting this wonderful new technology. And then, along comes MOC. So MOC is a 4-part framework that Dr. Jackson explained. Most of the complaints have to do with part 3 and 4, the testing and the practice improvement, although there's some complaints now about the self-assessment, CME. I'll add a 5th one, part 5, which is you pay money. And there's been complaints about that as well. The American Board of Medical Specialties created the Vision Committee, which I thought did a really good job looking at these complaints, and I got to be interviewed by ZDog MD, which was a lot of fun. I went over this whole document very carefully. They have a number of findings and 15 recommendations. One of the findings, for example, was that only 12% of physicians said they valued the MOC program. But the most important recommendation was to move from the summative exam, this is education speak, so I have to educate doctors what these words mean. Summative means that you get a score and you could fail it, to a formative assessment, which is something you're supposed to learn from, and also to do it longitudinally, don't do it all at once. And I think most of the boards, even internal medicine, is finally moving towards a formative longitudinal assessment, which I think is definitely an improvement. So I've thought a lot about this. The physicians, we complained, changes were made. Now, let's see where we stand. It's about 5 years after we started complaining. So I came up with 8 major objections to MOC that we had. So let's look at them. One, there's no robust evidence or even a general consensus that MOC improves patient care. If you go to the vision statement, they acknowledge this. There are gaps in the research evidence. So this is pretty much everyone agrees it is not good evidence. And if you go to the National Board's website, NBPAS.org, and click on the Journal Club, you'll see independent physicians evaluating the data to support MOC. You'll see how weak it really is. Now, I've been thinking about how to solve this problem. I'm trying to make a constructive idea here. There'll never be level A randomized data. We're not going to randomize doctors to do MOC or not MOC. So one reasonable metric, I think, is if you could just get, do an honest survey that shows at least 75% of your diplomats, A, think MOC helps them become better physicians, takes better care of their patients, and B, thinks MOC is worth the time, effort, and money. I think that would be a passing grade. I mean, it's only a 75%, 75% is like a C+, okay? But that would be, I think, a reasonable metric, because I don't know how else to grade this in a way that is meaningful, since we can't do a real trial. Okay, so number 2 and 3, MOC is onerous, oppressively burdensome, and wastes doctors' time, and all the review courses and time spent preparing for tests increase cost of physicians. So I'm going to give the American Board of Radiology a partial attaboy about this, because I think that, as Dr. Jackson explained, the online assessments are a lot less burdensome than they used to be. Because it used to be pretty burdensome. It still hasn't been proven to be helpful. I've done my own surveys of radiologists, and lots of mixed feelings about them. They're better, but test questions are also still not so great. It still takes time. There's a lot of administrative steps involved that can be cleaned up, but it is an improvement, so I'm going to acknowledge that. The third issue, the review courses and time spent preparing for the tests increase costs to physicians. Well, that actually has been, I think, pretty much abolished by all the changes. So I think we can give you a lot of credit for that change. You don't have to travel anymore. You don't have to go to the Pearson review tests and centers to take time off from work. I think that's a positive. Number 4, the specific MOC requirements for each of the boards are complex and difficult to decipher from the websites. We spend a lot of time just figuring out what's required of us. These are administrative tests. So I had to learn a lot about the American Board of Radiology to do this today. So I sat down and looked at your website in a coffee shop last weekend, and it's complicated. On the left side there are 11 places I can click, and I've got to click on all of them and try to understand this web of things you have to do. And the font, by the way, is really small. So I think this could be cleaned up quite a bit and simplified. Maybe you could just simplify the number of requirements so that it doesn't give you a headache when you try to sort through them. 5, the multiple choice question tests we take are often out of date, contain errors, and take sides on controversial issues. This is still true. Multiple choice questions are very difficult to do. And when I ask doctors, radiologists, how they feel about the online assessment, a lot of them are pretty new to it. Truthfully, they've done it for a couple of weeks or maybe 1 year. And they tell me that a lot of the questions are, quote, silly. I was talking to a radiation oncologist just this week I worked with, and he said, well, a lot of the questions I just don't know the answer to because I subspecialize, and I just have to guess. So it's not, all the walk-around knowledge isn't always something that everyone knows. On the other hand, I'm going to give you a question mark on this one because it's sort of a plus-minus, because it doesn't look like you're going to fail anybody. So it doesn't really matter if you get the questions wrong. If you learn something from them, fine. So maybe it's not so terrible. I'm going to give you partial credit for this. I think it's actually an improvement. The required practice improvement projects are onerous and massive, and a massive waste of time. Well, the Vision Commission really lit into this. I mean, they really, I thought, heard these criticisms loud and clear. They acknowledged that measuring practice improvement is difficult, and that the difference found the checkbox activity is not relevant to the practice. Now, so then you go and look at the American Board of Radiology's website, and it's very complicated. There are a lot of, as Dr. Jackson pointed out, there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of options here, it goes on and on, there's another page of them. Well, my answer to this is, don't tell me I'm already doing it. If I'm already doing it, don't make me spend 3 hours proving it to you. And that's, I think the practice improvement, I don't think it's really helping anybody. I think it's just complicated. And yeah, a lot of us, particularly in academic centers, are on committees that'll satisfy the objective. I don't think that you're really helping patients by making this a requirement of certification. If it's a requirement of your hospital to be on a committee, fine, but I don't think it needs to be part of the certification. And finally, we get to the money part. The MOC annual fees are costly, and it's disheartening for physicians to see their boards, once trusted organizations, to so blatantly use MOC as a revenue generator. So for this, I sat on my computer and looked and asked, well, what does a radiologist make? So it turns out Medscape says that the average radiologist makes $41,000 per year. So then I looked at the 990 from the American Board of Radiology, and I can see what Dr. Jackson makes, and I'm telling you, it's Sunday morning. I'm not impolite. I'm not going to disclose her salary. That's kind of rude, but you can look it up yourself. Just Google it. It's more than the average radiologist. So yeah, that's okay. I think maybe it's a harder job. But what got my attention is this small print here, that the board policy is to reimburse board members for companions' travel. And the board grosses up reimbursement for meals to account for the taxes that the board member is supposed to pay. Now this is kind of annoying because, as you know, when we travel and we come to meetings like this, we can't pay for our companions' airfare. We don't get twice as much money as the dinner costs, so we can pay for the taxes. I don't think physicians need to be held to a more stringent standard than American Board of Radiology board members. This just gives it a bad taste. I think that we could eliminate that. That might be helpful. So, and you can get this information just by sitting at a coffee shop and Google. Just American Board of Radiology 990, you'll see all this information. And you get the tax forms and look at it. They're very interesting to look at. So maybe more importantly, and most important, is the revenue generated by the American Board of Radiology in 2018. That's the last year we had. It's $14 million. Okay? In that same tax report, we find out that 30,000 of the diplomats are taking MOC. So that's about 40,000. 39,278 total diplomats certified by the American Board of Radiology, and 30,000 of them pay for MOC. What does MOC cost? Like Dr. Johnson mentioned, it only costs $340 a year. What was that, 93 cents a day? Okay? But 30,000 diplomats do it at $340, that's $10.2 million. It's a lot of money. I call this the toll booth of MOC. APR is 40,000 diplomats, total revenue of $14 million. 30,000 of them doing MOC, that's $10.2 million from MOC. That means $4 million came from initial certification, $10 million from MOC. It's only 93 cents a day, but it's a lot of money. 25% of the docs are grandfathers who are exempt from MOC, so in 5 to 10 years, when they retire, everyone's going to be doing MOC. That's 40,000. Maybe it'll be higher by then. 40,000 times $340, $13.6 million just from MOC, plus the $4 million from initial certification. Total revenue now is $18 million. So MOC takes the ABR from $4 million to an $18 million company. And still, there's no real evidence or even general consensus that MOC improves patient care. So this is the elephant in the room. I think this probably is surprising to you. It was surprising to me. We don't want to be impolite and talk about money, but how can the fact that MOC causes ABR's annual revenue to increase from $4 million to $18 million not be part of this conversation? The conflict of interest is just too enormous. Think about that. So if you don't know, now you know. The National Board is an alternative organization. We have 8,000 diplomats, so that's a number for your metric there. And it's growing every day. There are 119 hospitals that accept the National Board for hospital privileges. This is an alternative board that replaces the continuous testing with ACC and the accredited CME. The National Board strongly supports initial American Board certification, and we require it for continuous National Board certification. The National Board opposes the continuous testing and especially the time-wasting administrative tasks required by MOC. It's a not-for-profit. Board members are high-profile thought leaders representing most of the ABMS and AOA boards on specialties. The fees are very low. They only cover our costs, our budget, and our 990s run on our website. Our budget's about $450,000 a year. Physician management and board members are unpaid. Obviously, that's not realistic, but that's what we're doing now, so we'd have to charge a little bit more if we were to pay the board members. The governance is quite transparent. One of our accomplishments was to go to Washington and meet the Department of Justice, and they rendered an opinion letter on some pending legislation that stated that the MOC may have the effect of harming competition and increasing the cost of health care services. The American Board may do so by imposing overly burdensome conditions on physicians who wish to maintain their certification. So the DOJ opinion letter encourages competition in certification, and as was pointed out, there is a class action lawsuit pending that some physicians have brought against the American Board of Radiology. So monopolies do increase costs and inefficiencies for all stakeholders, including patients. What can you do to help? You can help increase hospital acceptance of National Board for Privileges. You do this by going to your MEC, your Medical Executive Committee, you make the case. You can use the enormous resources we placed on the NBPAS.org website. PowerPoints, petitions, letters, it's all there for you. You petition your societies, including these societies, and also the California Medical Association, the AMA, to support competition in certification like the National Board. And I have to warn you, society leaders are inherently conservative and risk-averse. Now, it's great that you guys invited me here today. I give you a lot of credit for that. But I've learned this, I didn't know this until I started this, but leadership tends to be risk-averse. They don't like big changes. And the rank and file members really must push the leaders to get change. That's the only way it's going to happen. Medicare does not require board certification, but private insurers often require American Board of Medical Specialties member board certification for physician contracting. This is, we call the certification industrial complex. They sit on each other's boards. They're all intertwined, and breaking through this is very difficult. And it requires really societies like these societies, like where we are today, to help break this logjam we have with insurance companies. And you can also join NBPAS. It's very simple to join. The application, we've designed it to very few places you have to click. It takes less than 15 minutes. It costs $169 for 2 years, and then it goes down to under $59 for the following 2 years after that. Here's our website, NBPAS.org. Everything's on it you need. You can apply. You can get lots of PowerPoints. I'll probably put this talk on it, and it can help us try to create change in the certification world.